I'm just going to ask the three of you about James Ward-Prowse, first of all. And I'm going to start with you, Glenn, because to get that free kick down into the bottom corner was special. Someone said to me, oh, it's like a penalty. But actually, I would argue that he's better at the free kicks than he is at penalties. I get more nervous when he's taking a penalty than I do when he's got a free kick on the outside of the box.
Yeah, I mean, what was that particular free kick he scored yesterday? It's a slight variation on what he's done a few times where he kind of whips it into the top corner. So this one went up and went down, and that seemed to be what did the goalkeeper. I think the goalkeeper knew where, roughly where it was going, but he couldn't get himself over and down quick enough to get anywhere near it, really. So because we've seen Ward-Prowse at times whip it into the top corner, and that was kind of the standard, and that was all he had, really. I'm not belittling it in any way, but that was his standard free kick, was to
not
whip
a bad
it
thing to have, is it?
No, absolutely, but to whip it into that top corner, and then we had the Wolves one last year where he just smashed it and it went the other side.
Frustration, wasn't it?
And it's like that. This is ridiculous. He had one at Brighton that he kind of placed, and it bounced into the bottom corner, and now he's got this one as well. So it's people are noticing the technique now. And, just that everyone was highlighting how much that one dipped and how that basically made it impossible for the goalkeeper to get anywhere near it. So, and what he said in his interview afterwards, he said, it's nice to know that if you practice something enough, you can really become sort of like the master of it. And that's what it is. I mean, he will break Beckham's record, hopefully next week.
Hopefully in a Saints shirt.
Yeah. Hopefully a couple will go in next week, and we can get some points against Leeds. But
the first thing I thought about when it went in yesterday, Glenn, was your observation last week about when he decided not to shoot against Wolves, and that to me, I was just like, the more I think about that, and I probably need to let it go. Like, what on earth was all that about? Because he could have broken the record yesterday.
It was very strange to get 2 free kicks against Wolves, especially the one in the last minute, and basically not shoot. And they were sort of 20, 21 yards out. It was very strange, but I guess we'll never know until he writes a book after he's retired.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, we've been pretty critical of him up until the World Cup break, but post-break, with everything else that's been going on, he's been that consistency and our standout player that we need.
Yeah, definitely. I think to be honest, that rejection from the World Cup squad, and deserved as it was, I think that rejection has spurred him on, and he's come back from that from the mid-season break. More motivated to raise his game and put in the sort of consistent performances we were seeing in previous years. He'd let it slip for 2 or 3 months, and unfortunately, when you play in a position where you're kind of never likely to be a regular starter in that England team, I think with the system that they play, you've kind of got to be on form more often than not. And having that long period of time, just right before the World Cup, where obviously recency bias is going to be key, and if you're clearly not in form, then you're much less likely to be picked, especially if you're on the fringes of things anyway. So I think actually that has helped him, and it's helped us, because I think if he goes to the World Cup, having put in the performances he did sort of September to the start of November, then I wonder if there might then sort of be an underlying complacency of like, well, I still got in the World Cup squad even with those performances. But no, fair play. He's done what we needed him to do, and that was to kind of lift himself out of that little funk. And yeah, I mean, ultimately he is going to be one of the key players, if not the sole key player, in terms of whether we stay up this year.
It was a real leader's performance for me yesterday, Jacob, and he's had a lot on his shoulders recently. And I guess with the managerial changes, the dressing room are going to be looking to the captain more than ever.
Yeah, they always seem to look at him, don't they? I think everyone's running out of words to describe James Ward-Prowse. Even the managers, Nathan Jones was highly complimentary of him. Ruben Sellers, probably more so even more effusive yesterday. He called him the best free kick taker the Premier League's ever seen. I think everyone probably would agree with that now, and he'll probably be vindicated in the next couple of weeks when he breaks David Beckham's record. He's done everything for this club, and I didn't really like the criticism he got in the early part of the season, because I know he wasn't at his best, but there were so many issues in that team, and James Ward-Prowse was trying to hold it together, and he's only human. But I think when Southampton need him in these crunch games, he's there. And without James Ward-Prowse, I'd hate to think where Southampton would have been in the last 2 to 3 years. They might just be in middling championship team right now, because he's saved so many points. He's always there. His celebration, I thought, was outstanding. The way he ran over to the away fans after when he scored, and yeah,
was there a little nod to the bench as well as he went past? There was.
I don't know, maybe, but it's been a difficult week for him. I'm sure he's always been the bridge between the management staff and the dressing room, especially with no Ori Romeu there anymore. So he's the guy who puts things forward. And what's interesting is that this week as well, Ruben Selles he's created this leadership group that Southampton didn't have. So I think he's got 3 or 4 leaders. I'm not sure who they are yet. I'm sure he'll elaborate on that as the week goes on. But as long as Ward-Prowse has the burden's taken off his shoulders a little bit, then it can't be a bad thing.